Hello and welcome to Macro 2.0. With me today, as always, is Barry Nielsen, certified financial analyst from Opportunity Bank. You may be wondering what kind of a shady character is hosting this program today. And I assure the audience and Barry that the glasses are simply to hide a medical problem with an eye. But coincidentally, we're going to talk about a subject today, cryptocurrency and the blockchain technology that undergirds this sort of new phenomenon. It's coincidental that we're going to be talking about something that for a lot of people is kind of shady, worrisome, easily misunderstood. And I want to say at the outset that we've agreed that neither one of us is an authority on this subject, but we find it fascinating. It's a new phenomenon in the financial economy, so we want to talk about it as best we can without knowing the details very much at all. But let's start just with the concept of a cryptocurrency. A currency of any kind has to kind of perform three functions. You have to be able to use it to make payments. It's supposed to be a reliable store of value. And an additional dimension of a currency is that it can be treated as an asset class. That's how the IRS is now treating Bitcoin, which is the premier, the standard bearer of cryptocurrency. So let's just back up to the two main functions. You can make payments with it, and you can regard it as a store of value. So with that to launch us, tell us a little bit about what you've been thinking about as you've read and studied this cryptocurrency phenomenon and why it's attractive philosophically or even just pragmatically. Why bother with fake money, digital currency?
Well, to tie it into everything that we've built up to this point in our other discussions, I do want to make the point that the US dollar and almost every currency in the world is a fiat currency, which we've talked about in the past, meaning that there's no gold in Fort Knox that backs the value of a US dollar. You cannot exchange a $1 bill for some amount of gold as you once could in the history of this country. So the only thing that backs the value of a US dollar is the fact that people have confidence that a dollar's worth a dollar. And they have that confidence because the US Treasury says it's legal tender. It can be used to exchange for goods and services. It says that right on, I believe it says that right on any bill or note, any denomination. And otherwise it's just a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So, but people do have confidence in the United States of America and the US Treasury, more so than any currency in the world. But what is the difference between that and a cryptocurrency? There's really, if you have confidence in a cryptocurrency, which is nothing more than, again, we're not experts on that. We've already established that. It's hard to even define what a cryptocurrency is, other than it's a unit that is on a computer network. I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about this, but can be mined by people that have expertise in that, and can be exchanged for goods and services. But again, it's only worth what it is, same as a dollar, because somebody says it's worth that. It is what it is.
Right.
My interest in cryptocurrencies stems from the fact that, as we've talked about in this program before, that the US dollar can be, I'm going to say, its value can be manipulated by the US Federal Reserve. They can print dollars,
Right.
Which they did in huge sums over the last 10 years. Something quantitative easing, the exchange of dollars for US Treasury bonds and mortgage-backed securities. The Federal Reserve went out and bought bonds. And when they bought those bonds, they printed dollars to do so. And a lot of people thought that at the time that was going to create a tremendous amount of inflation. And then we have, of course, the federal debt that we've talked about in the past. What happens to our federal debt? How do we get out of that tremendous hole of $22 trillion? At some point, will we try to print our way out of that, inflate that debt away? So honestly, my interest personally in cryptocurrency stems from could I protect the purchasing power by having some amount of a cryptocurrency that cannot, the number of those coins cannot be created at random will by some institution, even if it's a government.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I'm not heavily invested in cryptocurrencies. I do want to say that.
Not yet. Well, me neither. But I too am intrigued and have an interest for similar reasons. The motivation is to find something that doesn't the purchasing power of a means of exchange is not inflated away and made, so your money becomes worthless. We know in history money can become worthless from day to day. Yeah. Now I have to back up and say that Bitcoin, which is just the standard bearer of now a proliferating number of cryptocurrencies, most of which are derivatives of this kind of original idea of Bitcoin. And it was an invention by a mysterious individual or collage of individuals. The identity of the inventor of this is still a mystery in the world. But people who are very savvy in computer knowledge and software programming and mathematical computation, they're enamored with this invention because it's brilliant, and to an extent it has taken hold in the market. It doesn't play a rather large role because very few vendors of goods and services are willing to accept a digital, intangible, computer cloud resident currency, in exchange for actual goods and services. However, it is happening, and I think probably for the reasons you've already spelled out. It's more reliable in a sense, philosophically at least, than U.S. currency or some other currency like the euro or Chinese currency, Russian rubles. They fluctuate a lot. One of the disadvantages to this new kind of money is that it actually has soared in value and declined in value it's very volatile. It's much more volatile than the stock market. It's hugely more volatile than foreign exchange markets where currencies are traded. So it does have some problems for people who are looking at it, wanting to acquire it, some people even wanting to mine it. And let's back up for a second. I just want to run through the terminology that you and I are becoming more familiar with.
Can I just say a couple things?
Yes.
A couple things came to mind as you were speaking. First of all, yes, I think in some countries currently that are experiencing hyper rates of inflation, cryptocurrencies are in fact more accepted and more widely used. Zimbabwe, for example, Venezuela, to the extent that the government has not been able to prevent the citizens of those nations using a cryptocurrency as a means of payment. I did want to say that because it goes right hand in hand with what we've already said. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought those examples because, yes, when people of a country that prints money, a national currency, lose complete faith in the government's ability to hold back inflation, to not just print it to oblivion, then they're desperate for something that is more reliable, and it's a great example. So people are reaching out into this new world of intangible, computer-based means of exchange. And to the extent people are willing to trade across the ether between themselves for goods and services, it does work. There are a few places in our community and definitely places in the American society where Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency are replacements for dollars or some other currency. It's very limited, and as I was saying, I'm going to back up and talk a little bit or mention just some of the jargon that goes with the cryptocurrency world. They call it the cryptosphere. You already mentioned mining, which is how these digital dollars, digital money is minted, is called mining, and that's a computer operation. And as time goes by, for a while now, people who have the mathematical wherewithal and the incentive to mint, they've been creating these coins in their basement with their own computers. That is now sort of defunct because the way the system is built using blockchain, which is a software engineered methodology, the way those blockchains are built is that with each increasing block of coins, Bitcoin, the mathematical challenge to create the next one becomes more and more difficult. It's designed that way because at the end of a number of years, there is a set limit of how many will exist on the planet, at least with Bitcoin. And that gives the user, the builder, the maker, the minter, the miner, believe in the system because it can't be inflated. There is a top limit, but it won't be achieved for quite some time. So with each progressive block of added to the system, the computing power required to solve the problem expands in an extremely, almost industrial scale. So today, the people who are mining Bitcoin are doing so in massive computer server farms in cold places on the planet, in Iceland and Montana and Russia, because energy is cheaper there and you don't have to spend so much energy to keep all those computers cool.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing that came to mind. And clearly, at some point a year ago, or thereabouts, Bitcoin and some of the other cryptocurrencies were approaching or were in some form of bubble, like any other asset. We've talked about
like the tulips,
Dutch tulip bulbs, other technology stocks, and I almost think that's to be expected because it is a revolutionary technology. If not the cryptocurrencies themselves, which I think you mentioned, there's, at this point, I would venture to say 100 or hundreds of them. Just as in the late 90s, there were 1,000 different technology companies that we probably all once read about in the newspaper and might have even owned shares in, and now they're all forgotten about, and only a few survive. I would expect that a revolutionary technology like the blockchain, cryptocurrencies would probably go through a similar phase, and we've probably are experiencing that now. Whether that bubble burst, at some point this year as the price of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, has fallen, I don't know. It might go through several more stages, but it certainly was in a frenzy bubble. Everybody was all of a sudden excited about owning Bitcoin, and that might come back because again, I want to say that neither you nor I, especially me, is not an expert on the technology, but I don't think the technology, that blockchain technology, is going away. And just real quickly as an example, in preparation for our discussion, I went out and I Googled blockchain, and the first 3 links that came up were information provided by IBM. The next one was Goldman Sachs, and I think the next one was Accenture, large accounting firm, and PwC, another accounting firm, was right there. To me, and I clicked on those links, and they all 4 of them had excellent presentations about the blockchain technology. If they're invested, America's leading corporations, technology corporations, finance corporations, accounting corporations, I don't think it's going away.
Yeah. No, I fully agree with you, and we talked a little bit about this off the set, that the blockchain technology that is the foundation for cryptocurrency has many other more conventional applications. And I predict, only because I read and look at stuff like you do, that it's going to become a regular foundational part of our global economy. And what is it about the blockchain software development? Setting aside cryptocurrency for a moment, the technology itself allows for a distributed ledger. It's something that's available to everybody in it to be observed. In other words, it's both private and easily encrypted, but also not centralized. So philosophically, again, the absence of a government's central role in the issuance of cryptocurrency or the use of blockchain is a comfort to many people in this country and elsewhere, because these institutions are corruptible, all kinds of transactions are hackable. So anything, and I'm speaking in very general terms, anything that can ensure the security of transactions, whether it's about property, about money, about identity, blockchain is offering the world a new way of protecting us from cyber criminals and things like that. Now, backing up for a second to the cryptocurrency itself, from what I've read, the vast majority of people in America who have invested in Bitcoin, they've put up real money, paper money, in exchange for this digital currency. But that's not for the purpose of actually spending it, of using it to buy something. It's a speculative gamble.
Well, are you sure? Are you sure? Let's think about that. I just want to say, yes, it's speculative, but again, this is just philosophical. I don't think the U.S. dollar is going to experience a period of hyperinflation with the next 3 months. But it's speculative to own dollars as well for that reason. So again, you've said that many times, as have I, but do you preserve your purchasing power by putting your confidence in a cryptocurrency, a crypto coin, the blockchain technology, or are you better off putting your money in a low-yielding savings account? And what happens if and when inflation finally takes over, which you've said, and I agree, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. It's happened throughout history. And you will not be able to exchange that dollar in your pocket for take it into the U.S. Treasury and exchange it for some amount of gold.
Yeah.
So how are you going to preserve that value? Are cryptocurrencies, owning some amount of cryptocurrency, is that the answer? I couldn't say that, but there's a lot of people that are intrigued by that. And
I think it is a genuine conundrum to figure out where to place one's trust and confidence in money of any kind, or multiple types of money that is exchangeable. You know, I think until Bitcoin or its derivatives are widely accepted as a means of payment, it's not likely to spread too thick, across the world. But I would say again that the blockchain underlying it, that method of keeping a ledger available to everybody in a distributed way and not centralized, that's going to be incredibly attractive, and it's attracting big corporations, it's attracting big governments. Now, as always, we've fast run out of time, and in this time we don't want to go over our time because we'll just get further into stuff we don't really know about. But I want to throw you just one idea. As I'm studying this, trying to understand it, never understanding the math part, but understanding that it is a mathematical industry, this cryptocurrency. For some reason, Las Vegas springs to mind. Why? Because Las Vegas is a city built on a desert. It shouldn't be there, and yet it's incredibly successful engine of economic activity. The whole world knows about Las Vegas. And I've been thinking of Las Vegas as the prototype community for human habitation on another planet. You know? You can imagine a place like Las Vegas on Mars, just as easily as we can in the Nevada desert. So, when we go to outer space and inhabit celestial bodies, what kind of money? What will be the system of commerce? Cryptocurrency is like built for the future in outer space. You get the last word on this.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. You know, we've already talked about how at one point pieces of 8 were the world's reserve currency, and the British pound, and I think further back, whatever the Dutch currency, I can't remember the name, but you know, these things evolve.
Yeah.
So what's the next step? U.S. dollars currency, currently the world's reserve currency. I hope that continues for a very long time. I have not lost confidence in our country or the U.S. Treasury or the U.S. Federal Reserve, but I think you're right.
There won't be a Federal Reserve on Mars.
No.
But there could be a lot of computers working every day to ensure the stability of this computer-based method of exchange.
Absolutely. I think it's the next step.
Okay, we're going to leave it at that. Thanks for watching our program, Macro 2.0. We'll be back again in a week. And in that time, I'm sure we're going to be digging deeper into this wonderful world of cryptocurrency and blockchain so that we understand it better. Thanks for watching.